All right, are you ready for a deep dive? Some seriously heady philosophical territory. Today, we're tackling Plato.
Oh, boy.
And not just any Plato, we're going straight to the heart of his ideas on love and friendship.
The good stuff.
Yeah, Eros, philia, all those juicy concepts he explores in dialogues, like the Lysis Symposium and Phaedrus.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about, Valentine's Day cards here.
Right.
Plato connects love directly to the pursuit of wisdom and truth, to the core of philosophy itself.
Exactly. We're going to unpack how Socrates, Plato's ever-provocative mouthpiece, challenges the norms around love and desire. Especially within the fascinating and, let's be honest, somewhat scandalous context of ancient Athenian culture.
It's a wild ride.
So let's start with the big question. Is Socrates really a master of Eros, as he claims to be? I mean, the guy's brilliant, no doubt, but a love guru.
Well, the Lysis dialogue gives us a glimpse of Socrates in action, so to speak. He's got this love-struck young man practically swooning over his crush, and Socrates, being Socrates, decides to give him a lesson in the art of love, Socratic style.
And by that, we mean a relentless barrage of questions.
Precisely. Socrates uses his famous method to dissect the young man's assumptions about love turning everything upside down and inside out, until the poor guy realizes how little he actually knows.
Which, as any good philosophy student knows, is the first step towards true wisdom.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. Socrates ignites this burning desire for knowledge, but doesn't exactly hand over the answers on a silver platter.
Oh, interesting.
He leaves his students wanting more, which I think is a pretty key part of his strategy.
So he's sparking that intellectual curiosity, but leaving the heavy lifting to us, the eager learners.
Precisely, he wants us to grapple with these questions ourselves, to keep searching for those elusive truths about love and life.
Now, we can't talk about Socrates and love without addressing the elephant in the room, or perhaps the very attractive young man in the room. Athenian paiderastia. It's a concept that raises eyebrows today, to say the least.
Absolutely. To understand Plato, we need to understand this context.
Okay.
Paiderastia refers to these socially accepted relationships between older men and adolescent boys, meant to be about mentorship and the development of virtue. But as you can imagine, the power dynamics are fraught.
And how does Socrates navigate this? Does he fit the mold?
That's where his relationship with Alcibiades, as depicted in the Symposium, gets super interesting. Socrates flips the script. He becomes the beloved in this dynamic, not the pursuer emphasizing the importance of the soul and shared intellectual pursuits over physical attraction.
Whoa, so he's basically saying, hey, it's not about the hotness, it's about connecting on a deeper level.
Exactly. And this dynamic with Alcibiades isn't just some random anecdote. It highlights a key theme throughout the Symposium. Each character who talks about love does so through the lens of their own desires and experiences, whether they're aware of it or not.
So even when we think we're talking about universal truths, our own baggage, our own longings shape how we see love.
Absolutely. The Symposium is like a masterclass in self-deception. Take Alcibiades, for example. He's clearly smitten with Socrates, but Socrates remains laser-focused on philosophical growth. It's a fascinating clash between raw attraction and a desire for something more.
It's like two ships passing in the night, each heading towards a different kind of harbor.
Exactly. And this brings us to another fascinating point about the Symposium.
Okay.
There are multiple ways to love Socrates. Some characters are drawn to his intellect, while others, like Alcibiades, are fascinated by something wilder.
Okay, that's intriguing. It's like different aspects of Socrates' personality appeal to different people's desires, which makes total sense, but I never thought about it in the context of ancient philosophy.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It shows how love, even for someone as seemingly straightforward as Socrates, is multifaceted, even contradictory.
Yeah.
What we find attractive in another person is deeply personal and says as much about us as it does about them.
So we've got this swirling vortex of perspectives on love. All these characters projecting their own stuff onto Socrates. Is there anyone in the Symposium who offers a more structured path to love? A roadmap for the perplexed soul?
That's where Diotima comes in, this incredibly wise woman, who imparts some seriously profound wisdom to Socrates' wisdom that, frankly, forms the bedrock of Plato's whole philosophy of love.
Okay, I'm ready for some ancient wisdom. Lay it on me.
Diotima lays out this idea called the ladder of love, which is essentially an ascent from the most basic earthly kind of love to something much, much grander.
Okay.
It starts with appreciating physical beauty, the, wow, they're hot level, but then moves on to appreciating the beauty of souls.
So it's about looking beyond the superficial superficial and seeing the inner beauty, right?
Exactly, but it doesn't stop there.
Oh.
From there, we ascend to appreciating the beauty of laws and knowledge all the way up to the highest rung, the form of beauty itself, which is like this ultimate, unchanging, perfect essence of beauty.
Well, hold on. Does this mean we have to ditch our partners once we reach philosophical enlightenment?
Laughs. That's a question that has plagued philosophy students for centuries.
Why that?
But no, that's not quite the point Diotima is making. This ascent isn't about abandoning earthly love. It's about deepening our understanding of it.
Okay.
As we grow and learn, our capacity for love expands and our relationships become richer and more meaningful.
So it's like saying our appreciation for beauty evolves as we evolve, which in turn elevates our relationships. It's not about ditching the physical. It's about incorporating deeper levels of understanding and appreciation.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true love encompasses so much more than just fleeting attraction. It's about seeking beauty in all its forms and allowing that pursuit to shape our lives and our connections with others.
Okay, so we scaled Diotima's ladder, reached philosophical nirvana, and maybe even gotten a bit misty-eyed in the process. But how does all this play out in the real world? Does understanding the forms make us better partners, better friends, better people?
Excellent question. And that brings us to the Phaedrus, where Plato dives deeper into the psychology of love using this incredibly vivid allegory of the chariot.
Oh, I love a good allegory. Tell me everything.
Imagine this. The soul is a chariot driven by two powerful horses.
Okay.
One horse represents our noble desires, our yearning for knowledge, virtue, and all those good things. The other horse, well, it's a bit more unruly, representing our base appetites.
I see where this is going.
Those primal urges for pleasure, power, and immediate gratification.
It's like an internal battle between our better angels and our inner demons, but who's the charioteer?
That would be reason, of course, struggling to keep those two powerful horses in check, trying to steer the chariot towards a higher path.
So it's not about eliminating our desires altogether. It's about learning to manage them right.
Exactly. This allegory brilliantly illustrates why love can be such a powerful force both for good and for bad. It can propel us towards wisdom and self-improvement, or it can lead to some seriously bad decisions and a whole lot of drama, depending on which horse is in control.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now I have to ask, are there specific examples in the Phaedrus of different kinds of lovers showcasing these chariots in action? Because I have a feeling some people's chariots are in much better shape than others.
Laughs. You're absolutely right. Plato analyzes different types of lovers and how their internal chariots are driven, some guided by reason, move towards genuine connection and virtue. Others, well, let's just say their chariots are careening wildly.
Oh, no.
Driven by impulse and fleeting desire, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake.
So it's like we each have this internal drama unfolding this battle for control that ultimately shapes our choices and actions in love.
Precisely. And this is where Plato's concept of philosophical love as a techne comes into play.
Wait, so love is like carpentry or playing the piano?
In a way, yes. Just like a sculpture-shaped stone, the philosophical lover uses discourse, reason, and careful analysis to shape souls and foster virtue.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but how do we become these master artisans of love?
Plato outlines two key processes: collection and division. Collection is all about gathering insights, observing patterns, understanding those underlying dynamics that shape our desires and interactions.
So it's like piecing together a puzzle, gathering those essential bits of information to understand the bigger picture.
Exactly. And then comes division, which is about separating truth from falsehood, breaking down complex concepts into their essential parts, refining our understanding until we reach the core of the matter.
So we're applying these philosophical tools not just to abstract ideas, but to our very relationships, our desires, our understanding of ourselves and others.
Precisely. It's about dissecting those messy, complicated dynamics that we all experience in love, using reason and dialogue as scalpels to reveal the truth beneath the surface.
Wow, Plato really doesn't mess around, does he? He's like, hey, if you want to truly understand love, you better be prepared to do the intellectual work.
Laughs. There's no shortcut to wisdom, my friend. And speaking of intellectual work, in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore how Plato connects love to the art of rhetoric, to the power of persuasion, and sharing those hard-won insights with others, because philosophical love isn't just about solitary contemplation.
Right.
It's about creating a ripple effect, inspiring others to embark on their own journeys of discovery.
I'm ready for round two. But before we dive back in, what are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should be pondering as we head into this next part of the deep dive?
I think it's important to remember that Plato isn't offering easy answers.
Hmm.
He's challenging us to examine our assumptions about love, to recognize the interplay between our desires and our pursuit of truth, and to consider how self-knowledge plays a crucial role in shaping our relationships.
So it's not just about finding the right person, it's about becoming the right person ourselves.
Exactly. It's about becoming the kind of person who is capable of experiencing love in all its complexity and beauty.
Deep stuff. Plato deep stuff.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Plato's philosophy of love.
Okay, so before the break, we were getting into this really fascinating idea of love as a techne, a craft to be mastered.
And what I find so compelling about this concept is that it connects love directly to the pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement.
It's like saying love isn't just this passive feeling that washes over you. It's something you actively cultivate, something you work at.
Precisely. And that work involves those two key processes. Plato outlines collection and division, the tools of the philosophical artisan, so to speak.
Right, those were intriguing. Remind us, how do those work again?
Well, think of collection as gathering those essential puzzle pieces. It's about observing patterns in our own lives and in the world around us, recognizing those recurring themes and underlying dynamics that shape our desires and relationships.
So it's like stepping back and taking a more objective look at our experiences, trying to see the forest for the trees.
Exactly. It's about recognizing those blind spots, those unconscious patterns that we often fall into when it comes to love. And once we've collected enough insights, we move on to division.
Which is where we break out the philosophical scalpel, right?
Precisely. Division is about dissecting those complex emotions and motivations, separating truth from falsehood, and refining our understanding until we reach the core of what's really driving us.
So it's like saying, okay, I'm feeling attracted to this person, but what is it about them that I'm truly drawn to? Is it their soul, their character, their shared values? Or am I just caught up in some superficial fantasy?
Exactly. And this process of rigorous self-examination isn't always easy or comfortable, but it's essential for cultivating those higher forms of love that Plato is talking about.
It's like we're peeling back those layers of illusion to get to the heart of what truly matters. But it's interesting because so much of our modern understanding of love is tied to this idea of romantic passion, this almost uncontrollable feeling.
And Plato would argue that that's precisely where we go wrong. True philosophical love isn't about being swept away by fleeting emotions. It's about grounding our affections in reason, virtue, and shared pursuit of those higher ideals.
So it's about making conscious choices in love, rather than simply being at the mercy of our impulses.
Exactly. And this brings us to another key point Plato makes in the Phaedrus, the connection between philosophy and rhetoric.
Okay, now that's intriguing. How does the art of persuasion fit into all of this?
Well, Plato argues that true philosophical love isn't just about solitary contemplation. It's about sharing those hard-won insights with others, about inspiring them to embark on their own journeys of self-discovery.
So it's like saying, hey, I've been on this incredible intellectual adventure and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Exactly. But to do that effectively, we need to master the art of rhetoric. We need to know how to communicate these complex ideas in a way that resonates with others, using language that speaks to their hearts and minds.
It's like crafting a philosophical love letter, carefully choosing each word to convey the depth and beauty of what we've discovered.
I love that analogy. And this connection between philosophy and rhetoric highlights the social dimension of Plato's philosophy of love. It's not just about individual enlightenment, it's about creating a ripple effect, building a community of like-minded individuals who are all striving towards those higher forms of love and wisdom.
So it's about sharing that fire, spreading those sparks of wisdom far and wide.
Exactly. Because true love, as Plato envisions it, is inherently expansive. It seeks to connect, to elevate, and to inspire others to reach their full potential.
Now, we've been talking a lot about these higher forms of love, but I'm curious, how do we distinguish between that and those more fleeting, superficial forms of attraction that we all experience? How do we know if we're on the right path?
That's a question that has probably tormented many a lover throughout history.
Right, because sometimes it's hard to tell if we're genuinely drawn to someone for who they are or if we're just caught up in a whirlwind of infatuation and projection.
Absolutely. And I think one key difference lies in the object of our affection in those more superficial forms of attraction. We're often fixated on external qualities, beauty status possessions, or even just the thrill of the chase. It's like those horses in the chariot allegory are running wild, driven purely by base appetites.
Okay, that imagery is really helpful. So in those cases, reason's been thrown from the chariot entirely, and we're just careening wildly toward whatever shiny object catches our eye.
Exactly. But in true philosophical love, the focus shifts to those internal qualities, virtue, wisdom, kindness, a shared passion for those things that endure beyond the realm of appearances. It's about recognizing the beauty of another soul and allowing that recognition to guide our actions.
So in a sense, it's about becoming discerning lovers, learning to look beyond the surface and see the true essence of a person.
Precisely. And this requires a level of self-awareness and honesty that can be quite challenging. We have to be willing to ask ourselves those tough questions. What am I truly drawn to in this person? Is this connection rooted in something real, something substantial, or am I just chasing a fleeting fantasy?
It's about aligning our desires with our values, making sure those horses are pulling the chariot in the right direction.
Exactly. And this process of aligning our desires and values brings us back to the lysis, which we haven't touched on in a while the symposium focuses primarily on Eros. The lysis delves into the nature of friendship philia and its connection to love.
Okay, so how does Plato see friendship fitting into this whole puzzle? Is it a stepping stone on the ladder of love, or is it something entirely different?
That's one of the central questions Socrates grapples with in the Lysis. He explores this age-old dilemma. Is true friendship based on similarity, on finding those who are like us in temperament and outlook? Or is it about finding those who complement our strengths and weaknesses, those who challenge us to grow?
It's like that saying, birds of a feather flock together versus opposites attract. Which side does Plato come down on?
Well, through a series of, you guessed it, relentless questions, Socrates ultimately concludes that true friendship transcends both similarity and difference. It's not about finding someone who's our mirror image or who perfectly fills in our missing pieces. It's about connecting on a deeper level, recognizing a shared pursuit of the good, a mutual desire to become better versions of ourselves.
So true friendship is about encouraging each other's growth, inspiring each other to reach those higher levels of understanding and virtue.
Precisely. And in a way, it's like those two horses in the chariot allegory working in harmony to pull the soul towards wisdom and excellence.
I knew you'd find a way to tie it back to the chariot, but that actually makes perfect sense. It's about finding that balance, that synergy between our different desires and aspirations, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others.
Exactly. And this brings us to a topic that often sparks debate among Plato scholars. The role of physical attraction in philosophical love. Can we truly have a love that transcends the physical, or are those two things inextricably intertwined?
Okay, yeah, that's a big one because on the one hand, Plato talks about ascending to this realm of pure beauty, which seems to suggest leaving the physical behind. But on the other hand, he's writing about Eros, which definitely has that element of desire.
And the symposium itself is all about a bunch of guys having a very wine-fueled discussion about love. It's not exactly a monastery, so how do we reconcile these seemingly contradictory ideas?
Right, because it feels like dismissing the physical entirely would be denying a fundamental part of human experience, especially when it comes to love.
And I think that's where some interpretations of Plato go astray, while he certainly emphasizes the importance of transcending those purely base animalistic desires. I don't think he advocates for a complete rejection of the physical. It's not about becoming some kind of disembodied spirit.
So it's not about denying our physicality. It's about understanding its place in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And in the context of paiderastia, which again we have to view through a very specific cultural lens, Plato seems to suggest that physical attraction can actually serve as a catalyst for the pursuit of higher forms of love. It's like that initial spark, that visceral draw can ignite a fire that ultimately leads to a much deeper, more meaningful connection.
It's like saying, okay, I acknowledge this physical attraction, but I'm not going to let it define the entire relationship. I'm going to use it as fuel for a journey of self-discovery and shared growth.
Precisely. And that journey requires discipline, self-awareness, and a willingness to challenge those societal norms that often equate love with purely physical desire.
It's about reclaiming the true meaning of love, recognizing its potential to inspire us, transform us, and connect us on a level that goes beyond the superficial.
Beautifully said, and this is a message that remains incredibly relevant today as we navigate a world saturated with images and messages that often reduce love to fleeting encounters and instant gratification.
It's like we've forgotten that love can be this incredible force for good, this driving force behind our pursuit of knowledge, beauty, and connection. But Plato is here to remind us that it's all possible if we're willing to do the work.
And that work, as we've been discussing, involves cultivating those essential skills of collection and division, mastering the art of rhetoric, and recognizing the profound connection between love and friendship.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, but there's still one crucial piece of the puzzle we need to explore: the way Plato uses different dramatic forms, tragedy, comedy, and even satyr play, to illuminate the complexities of love and relationships.
That's right, because Plato isn't just a philosopher, he's a master storyteller. And in the final part of our episode, we'll delve into the symposium's structure as a drama, uncovering those hidden layers of meaning and seeing how those different genres reflect the multifaceted nature of love itself.
I'm ready for the grand finale. Let's do it. All right, we're back for the final act of our Platonic deep dive. We've explored Eros Philia, that wild chariot ride of the soul, and so much more.
And now we're stepping into the symposium itself, not just as a philosophical text, but as a carefully constructed drama, a stage where Plato's ideas about love come to life.
This is where things get really meta, right?
Yeah.
Because Plato is using these different dramatic forms, tragedy, comedy, even those slightly scandalous satyr plays, to mirror the very nature of love itself.
Exactly. And by weaving these genres together, he's suggesting that a truly wise person, a true master of love, needs to understand and appreciate the full spectrum of human experience.
Yeah.
Not just the idealized, perfect version of love that we often see in those cheesy romantic comedies.
It's like he's saying, hey, life is messy, unpredictable, full of laughter, tears, moments of grace, and moments of utter absurdity, and love, being an essential part of the human experience, reflects all of that.
Precisely to grasp Plato's vision, we need to see the symposium as this microcosm of life, this carefully staged performance where each character plays a specific role.
Okay.
And the dialogue itself shifts and transforms as the night progresses.
Okay, I'm loving this theatrical metaphor. So if we're picturing the symposium as a play, where do we begin? What's the setting, the mood?
Well, imagine this. We're in ancient Athens at the house of Agathon, this tragic playwright who's just won a major competition. It's a celebratory gathering, symposium,
Okay.
where a group of friends have come together to eat, drink, and engage in some spirited conversation about, you guessed it, love.
Sounds like my kind of party. So who were the main players in this philosophical drama?
We've got a cast of characters, each representing a different perspective on love. There's Phaedrus, who kicks things off with a somewhat romanticized view of Eros, Pausanias, who offers a more pragmatic, rule-bound approach, Eryximachus, the doctor, who sees love through the lens of balance and harmony.
And then there's Aristophanes, right? The comic playwright who always has a way of turning things upside down and making us laugh.
Exactly. His speech is a classic example of how Plato uses humor to convey profound insights. Aristophanes tells this wild myth about how humans were originally these spherical beings
Wait, what?
with 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces, until Zeus, in a fit of jealousy, split them in half, leaving us forever searching for our other half.
It's a hilarious image, but it also points to this deep longing for connection, this desire to find that missing piece of ourselves.
Precisely. And this longing, according to Aristophanes, is the driving force behind love, this primal urge to reunite with our lost soulmate.
Okay, so we've got this lighthearted, almost comedic energy flowing through the first part of the symposium. It's playful, witty, full of those sparkling Athenian bon mots, but then enter Socrates.
Ah, yeah, Socrates, his arrival marks a turning point in the dialogue, a shift from the superficial to the profound, from comedy to something deeper.
It's like the moment in a play when the music changes, the lights dim, and the audience leans forward in anticipation.
Exactly. Socrates' true to form challenges the assumptions of the previous speakers, using his relentless questioning to expose the flaws in their reasoning.
And then he introduces us to Diotima, right?
Yeah.
This mysterious and wise woman who guides him and us towards a higher understanding of love.
Precisely, Diotima's speech is the heart of the symposium. It's where Plato lays out his most profound ideas about the ascent to beauty itself, that ladder we talked about earlier, moving from the love of physical forms to the love of soul's knowledge, and ultimately the form of beauty.
It's a powerful moment, this realization that love can be so much more than just fleeting attraction. It can be this driving force behind our pursuit of wisdom, truth, something that transcends our limited earthly perspective.
Exactly, and it's through Diotima's teachings that Socrates, and by extension we, the readers, begin to grasp the true nature of Eros, not as a simple desire for possession, but as this yearning for something higher, something that nourishes the soul.
Okay, so we've reached this peak of philosophical insight, this glimpse into the eternal realm of forms. But then Plato throws us a curveball, right?
Yeah, yes, the Alcibiades moment.
Alcibiades, the charismatic, somewhat notorious Athenian statesman known for his shall we say, passionate nature.
Precisely, his arrival disrupts the philosophical serenity of the symposium. He bursts in, drunk and full of boisterous energy, and proceeds to deliver this impassioned speech about his love for Socrates.
It's a complete tonal shift, like a scene from a satyr play inserted into this high-minded philosophical dialogue.
Exactly. Satyr plays were known for their body humor, their irreverence, their willingness to poke fun at even the most sacred cows.
So what's Plato doing by bringing this chaotic, almost comedic element into the symposium? Is he just messing with us?
I think it's more than just a comedic interlude. Alcibiades' speech, with its raw emotion and unbridled desire, serves as a kind of counterpoint to Socrates' more measured philosophical approach to love.
So it's like Plato is showing us the two sides of the coin, the tension between passion and reason, between those wild horses of the soul and the charioteer struggling to maintain control.
Exactly, and this tension is essential to the human experience. It's what makes love so dynamic, so unpredictable, so capable of both great joy and great sorrow.
It's like Plato is saying, hey, life isn't a neat and tidy philosophical treatise. It's a messy, vibrant tapestry woven from all these different threads. Joy, sorrow, passion, restraint, wisdom, folly, and to truly understand love, we need to embrace it all.
Precisely, and by incorporating these different dramatic forms, these different perspectives on love, Plato challenges us to move beyond those simplistic binaries, those easy answers, and recognize the inherent complexity of the human heart.
Wow, Plato really packs a punch, doesn't he? He's not just giving us philosophical concepts. He's giving us a lived experience, a glimpse into the messy, beautiful reality of love in all its forms.
And that's the brilliance of his work. He's not just telling us what to think, he's inviting us to feel, to question, to grapple with these timeless dilemmas that continue to shape our lives today.
This deep dive has been quite a journey. We've explored love as a technique scaled.
Yeah.
Diotima's ladder wrestled with those unruly chariot horses.
Right?
And witnessed the dramatic interplay of tragedy, comedy, and satyr play.
And I hope along the way you've gained a deeper appreciation for the enduring power of Plato's ideas and how they continue to speak to us across the centuries.
Absolutely. So, as we wrap up our exploration, what's the one takeaway you'd like our listener to carry with them?
I think it's essential to remember that love, as Plato envisions, it isn't a destination, but a journey. A journey of self-discovery, growth, and ever-deepening understanding.
It's about recognizing the beauty in all its forms, cultivating virtue in ourselves and others, and embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
Beautifully said, and as you continue your own journey, remember Plato's words. Let us ever pursue the good both in ourselves and in others.
Wise words indeed. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom, keep exploring, and keep your chariot horses in check.